Θα επιστρέψω στο έγκλημα των Τεμπών, μιας και πέρα από την κυρία Καριστιανού, παρακολουθείτε, βλέπω αρκετοί τα βίντεο και με την κυρία Καριστιανού και με τον κύριο Γεννηδούνια. Μίλησε και η Ευδοκία, στα αγγλικά είναι, αλλά υπάρχουν υπότιτλοι, οπότε θα σας αφήσω να δείτε τα τρομερά που ακούστηκαν μέσα στο Ευρωκοινοβούλιο και ο καθένας μπορεί να σχηματίσει την άποψή του σε αντίθεση με αυτά που μας λένε οι κυβερνώντες. Πάμε να δούμε τι υπόθηκε μέσα στο Ευρωκοινοβούλιο.
Ladies and gentlemen, honorable members of the European Parliament, my name is Evdokία, Τσαγκλή. I stand before you today not only as a survivor who narrowly escaped death in the tragic Tέμπη train crash, but as a voice for those who were murdered and for those whose lives are forever scarred by that night. I extend my deepest gratitude for this opportunity to speak, distancing myself and my cause far away from many political parties and interests, having a clean background as well as presence. And I also acknowledge God, the universe, that spared me, allowing me to fight for justice and truth in the aftermath of horror. The photo I hold in my hands is not just an image. It's a window into the darkest hour of my life. A reminder of resilience in the face of an unimaginable adversity. Is the second wagon where I got out of. Every survivor of this fateful journey carries with them a similar testament, a silent scream for justice and dignity that has been too often ignored, mocked, repressed, and yet here we are, a proof of the indomitable human spirit's capacity to endure and to resist. Please don't forget about us. We're mostly young people having the Greek government against us instead of with us, with zero support, despite their initial big promises. As I share my story and the collective plea of those who share my pain, I ask you esteemed members to listen not just as legislators, but as fellow human beings. We are united today by a common bond of humanity and a shared duty towards justice and compassion. The question I pose to you and to the European Union is this: will we stand together to right the wrongs of the past and prevent them from reoccurring? Or will we turn a blind eye, letting the lessons of history fade into oblivion, risking for a predictable repetition? The horror persists, but so do I, and so do we all. But it is not enough to merely persist. We must transform our collective trauma into a catalyst for change, ensuring that no other soul endures this agony that we faced. When we speak of human error, let us be clear. This term has been weaponized, used as a shield to deflect responsibility from those who failed to act, who chose inertia over action, who placed money over human lives. The tragic night of February 28, 2023 is not an isolated incident, but a culmination of years of corruption, of placing humans in positions they should never have been, taking decisions they were never qualified or nor moral enough to make, and failing to make decisions that were necessary for our safety. Following the initial tragedy, additional transgressions compounded to the grief and shock. The illegal tampering with the crash site is a grave violation of investigative integrity. But I'm not here to repeat what has already been mentioned. I will just say the discovery of flammable chemicals and the actions that followed make us question what protocols were followed, the purported human loss management plan, or perhaps the emergency response plan for accidents during road and railway transportation of hazardous goods. Both are at your disposal, as well as relevant reports by investigators and scientists we had to hire, as the governmental report without an autopsy on the spot blames the engine's K3 cooling oils, which lack the ability to induce such a fireball due to their chemical properties, which is also conferred by Siemens, who makes them. Otherwise, they would need to be withdrawn from use in all electric trains. And perhaps that's why the investigation was illegally and prematurely over in the face of economic, political, and legal consequences for what the government caused, but also failed to prevent. This is not the democracy, the rule of law that our ancestors fought for, that we believe in. This is not the Europe of justice, transparency, and human dignity. As we gather in this hall of democracy, let us confront stark realities and the path to reform. I will now proceed with the actions in need. First and foremost, we ask the immediate public release of the European Railway Agency conclusive report on the causes of the Tēbī train crash. This document, shrouded in secrecy for far too long, holds the key to understanding the failures that led to this tragedy. Its continued concealment not only disrespects the memory of those we've lost, but also endangers lives today, as the Greek railway continues to operate under the same perilous conditions. We urgently call for the full disclosure of correspondence between the European Railway Agency and the Greek Ministry of Transport and Infrastructure. This crucial dialogue centers on the protracted and yet unresolved enactment of national safety rules for the Greek railway network, a situation that starkly undermines passenger safety and flouts legislative mandates. Under the aegis of Articles 13, 14, 59, as delineated in Article 7 of Directive 798/2006 and Article 60 of Article 8 on the same directive, alongside Law 4632 of 2019, Greece is obliged to enforce new national safety rules. This requirement has become all more critical in the wake of repeated fatal accidents that have marred our railways. Leaks from the era's conclusions to the press reveal a deliberate, egregious abdication of responsibility by governmental leaders. This dereliction not only contravenes the principle of legality through a calculated evasion of European directives, verges on the criminal. It amounts to manslaughter, rooted in a blatant disregard for the preventive measures necessitated by the very probability of human error. This failure directly imperils life, offering stark evidence of culpability at the highest levels of government, implicating figures such as Mr. Mitsotakis and Mr. Karamanlis in the systematic failings. Documentary evidence further compounds the situation. Mr. Karamanlis' own admissions, made 3 days post his testimony to the Committee of Inquiry, revealed that no comprehensive legislative decision had been rendered on national safety rules. Instead, a patchwork of general traffic regulations and circulars was mistakenly offered up as a stand-in, a move that ERA has consistently and categorically deemed insufficient for meeting the standards set by the European law. Their feedback has pointedly highlighted the absence of any reference to national legal acts, a deficiency in providing crucial information, and a failure to delineate the roles of local national authorities, emergency services, or procedures for the notification of accidents and incidents as far as the ERA's admonitions about irregularities and accidents go. When we crashed, they initially believed there was an electricity problem. The befuddlement by Mr. Karamanlis suggesting expediency over ethical governance not only misled the Commission and the Greek public, but also perpetuated a dangerous status quo over a prolonged period, and thus the call to immediate action safeguards the lives of countless individuals. We assert the necessity for the European Railway Agency to immediately resign the security certification previously granted on the basis of RAS, the Hellenic Railways Organization, falsified and misleading annual reports. The gravity of the situation is underscored by impending criminal charges against the president of RAS, as the actions of Greek justice commence in response to these deceptive practices. The European Public Prosecutor's Office must investigate the origins and transportation of illegal cargo, including hazardous materials like selene found on the freight train involved in the crash. This inquiry should extend to examining potential smuggling, corruption, and tax evasion activities that compromise not only the safety of the railway system, but also the financial interests of the European Union. A possible origin could be FIRM, comprehensive oversight, and I'm reaching the end. Until such a time as genuine safety measures are implemented and those responsible for neglect and mismanagement are held to account, the Greek railway should remain under the strict supervision of the ERA. This includes the immediate replacement of the current president of RAS, whose actions have contributed to the jeopardization of countless lives. Safeguards, protocols, and oversight mechanisms currently in place should be rigorously assessed, ensuring they are robust enough to protect against any future calamity. The aim is to solidify an unwavering commitment across the European family, a commitment to uphold the rule of law and safeguard human values that are foundational to our collective identity. This transcends merely regulatory compliance. It is about fostering a culture where the sanctity of human life is paramount and non-negotiable. The imposition of penalties will not only reflect the gravity of the actions taken or not taken by those at fault, but will serve as a stern warning against the future harm. The severity of these sanctions should be meticulously calibrated to the level of culpability and awareness of the risks involved, underscoring the principle that with great power comes profound responsibility. Let this tragic event not only serve as a somber reminder of how governmental corruption kills, but also galvanize a movement towards systematic improvement that honors the memories of those lost. In their name, we must forge a future where such tragedies are not just remembered, but actively prevented through conscientious governance. This is not merely a call for action. It is a plea for a collective awakening to the intrinsic value of every life. It is a vision for a society where safety and justice are not just aspirational ideals, but fundamental rights. In sharing these demands, I stand before you not as an individual marked by tragedy, but as a representative of every soul that demands justice, safety, and dignity. Together, we have the power to rewrite the narrative, to ensure that the tragedy of the Tēmbī train crash becomes a turning point in our collective history, a moment where we choose action over words, truth over silence, and life over loss. I thank you for lending me your ears, your hearts, and I hope your commitment to change. Together, we can emerge from the shadow of tragedy to build a safer world and more humane future for all. Thank you very much.
Ευχαριστούμε πολύ, κυρία Τσαγκλή.